Uranium. Uranium prices have skyrocketed, rising by around 50% all the way since October last year. You might be wondering what's going on and what are the prospects going into the future. Luckily, it's time for our nearly monthly uranium reports at myfinancesteacher.org, where our data-driven approach guides every step of our journey towards maximizing profits. Today, though, the data that we will look at is mostly of fundamental rather than technical nature. So the issues we are going to discuss today are likely to play out over the years rather than over the weeks and months. Now let's jump into that fundamental data, starting with visits to Central Asia. Central Asia has recently garnered an exceptional level of foreign attention, underscored by notable visits from world leaders. French President Emmanuel Macron, accompanied by representatives from EDF and Framatome, embarked on a journey to both Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Macron also recently hosted the president of Mongolia and agreed to collaborate on the development of Orano's Mongolian Zhuvj-Ovu uranium deposit. Russian President Vladimir Putin has also recently visited Kazakhstan's President Tokayev. Adding to this strategic interest around Central Asia, note that last year Chinese leader Xi Jinping also visited Kazakhstan. A discernible pattern emerges from these high-profile visits, emphasizing the geopolitical importance of securing future uranium supplies, an issue that has become one of the highest political priorities. After all, around 20% of French uranium demand relies on the supplies from Niger, which has become less certain after the summer coup. Russia is expecting to increase its uranium output in the next 2 to 3 years via its purchases of Kazakhstan's large Budenovskaya 6 and 7 mines. Russia will need that increased output as it is planning to export a lot as well, covering the needs of 33 large reactors it will build offshore. China's uranium demand is expected to grow 3.6-fold by 2040. The Alashankou uranium warehouse on the border of Kazakhstan, which we reported about in our previous uranium reports, so that's on the border of Kazakhstan and China, will hold 52 million pounds of uranium by 2025. That's a little on current geopolitics. Moving on to the demand growth. At the recent COP28 conference in United Arab Emirates, the US, UK, France and Japan pledged to triple their installed nuclear capacity by 2050. The US goal is to build 200 gigawatts of new nuclear. Hence, US domestic nuclear supply has to increase by 200 to 300%, as the reactors would consume at least 100 million pounds of uranium per year. Moving on to another interesting issue of AI and how it's related to uranium, Uranium Energy Corp CEO Amir Adnani emphasized that AI is a game changer for the nuclear energy, presenting both completely new and substantial demand. By 2024, NVIDIA is expected to deliver 1.5 million AI servers annually. The upcoming data centers will require reliable 24/7 power. Constellation Energy, which has already committed to supplying nuclear-generated electricity to Microsoft, predicts that AI power demand in the US could be 5 to 6 times greater than the demand from electric vehicles. Another interesting development in our subtopic for demand growth, EDF, that's a French utility company, Électricité de France, has set an ambitious goal to construct 1 to 1.5 nuclear reactors annually throughout the 2030s. This state-owned electric utility is building 6 new reactors in France, as well as 2 additional reactors in a Sizewell site in the UK. EDF is also engaged in nuclear projects in India, Czech Republic and Poland. The CEO, Luc Remont, outlines that the company is aiming for accelerated expansion of nuclear capacity. The plan is to transition from the current rate of 1 to 2 reactors per decade to a gradual increase of 1 to 1.5 reactors per year. That is a substantial increase in the number of reactors to be built. Talking about the reactors under construction, global nuclear industry is growing at the fastest pace since nearly 20 years. There are 61 new reactors currently under construction all over the world. And this is not a negligible growth. It represents a 14% increase in the number of reactors, and that 14% is not the impressive part. Most of these new reactors will become operational by 2030, and they will need uranium supplies. Beyond 2030, the growth is expected to accelerate even further. Global nuclear generating capacity is projected to reach over 930 gigawatt by 2040. That is 2.5 times more capacity and uranium demand compared to today. Hence, all of these developments show that demand is growing and will continue to grow over the years, but how the price reacts to that will also depend on the changes in supply. That will be discussed in the second part of the Uranium Report. In the second part, we will talk about the most recent supply developments, the resulting fundamental deficits. We'll also cover the recent developments in long-term as well as spot contracting for uranium coming from the utilities, coming from the power generators. We'll also look at what's been happening to physical uranium funds, such as SPUT, Sprott Physical Uranium Fund. There is also Yellowcake and others. And as usual, we'll cover global developments that's happened over the last couple of months. We'll have a look at Canada, US, Spain, Sweden, United Arab Emirates, India, Korea, and Japan, and more. All of that in the second part of the Uranium Report that will be upcoming perhaps over the weekend or next week at myfinanceteacher.org. Again, that's myfinanceteacher.org. Scroll down a little and you can find this Join Now button. Have a pleasant Friday and a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.